I have a strange relationship with my downstairs neighbors. Like most pre-war houses in Montreal, mine has an insulation problem, or lack thereof, and I can hear everything they say through the vents and floorboards. It's a couple, youngish from what I can tell, and her bedroom is, naturally, right beneath mine, next to the wrought iron staircase that leads up to my apartment. But strangely enough, on such a small street with such a short distance between us, I have never met this loud downstairs couple. But I would know them anywhere, or at least their voices. At first, before COVID, it was just her living there, a young 20-something fresh out of McGill and working at a PR agency. She'd spend hours on the phone, to her friends or her father, I couldn't tell, talking about how great work was, but she just didn't get dating in Montreal. It was easy back in Beaconsfield in the West Island where she was from, and she knew everyone. But in Montreal, men were flakes. Then one day, her phone conversations changed to the topic of Ludwig, a handful of a name she had to spell out several times to whoever was on the other end of the line. Ludwig was a Dutch man, new to Montreal, and she wasn't sure if he was in to her. I'd sit at my desk, overlooking Rue de la Naudière, and I'd watch the snow fall as her words traveled up through the floorboards. When she'd get frustrated, she would kick her radiator, an old relic that crawled halfway up her wall, and it would shake my windows and rattle my bookshelves. Then the phone conversation stopped entirely when Ludwig started spending the night. I'd get no sleep listening to those two yammer on until stupid o'clock in the morning. She'd say things like, "I was so lonely before, but now I feel at peace." And he'd reply something like, "I've never felt at home anywhere, but with you, I finally found home." They'd talk about going back to Amsterdam, maybe to visit his mother. Maybe they'd move there, if only to get away from their loud upstairs neighbor who kept them awake with her typewriter. Look, in my defense, I was overtired and they were keeping me awake, so I figured, why not take out my frustrations out on the Remington? The next morning, I got a curt letter slipped under my door. Ludwig strove to improve his Quebecois French in order to survive in Montreal. You know, as much as I hate to admit it, he was growing on me. I liked him. I thought he was sweet. There has to be something wrong with him, I thought to myself. And then one day I heard him say to her, "God brought us together." And there it is. Then COVID hit the shores of the St. Lawrence River, and we all went into lockdown. Restaurants and bars and malls all closed. For how long? Who knew? We were told to stay home and only leave the house for essentials. That meant no friends, no family, and no boyfriends. When my job switched to an at-home format, Ludwig, just as I expected, moved in. I found myself shutting down all technology by 5 p.m., and not just because of the soaring hydro prices. No, just so I could lie down next to the vents and listen to them, laugh at their favorite podcasts, talk about the cosmic underpinnings of the universe, dance to their favorite top 40 radio hits, and prepare yourself, have epic fuckfests. It sounded like someone was stapling sausage rolls together. And not for nothing, while their conversations may have been lively, when it came to sex, I'd wager she was trapped in a very one-sided conversation. Those nights by the vents gave me an opportunity to knit teeny jumpers for my nephews or take a stab at the crossword puzzle in the Gazette, but the effects of those accomplishments were short-lived because they made me forget all the things that I don't like about my apartment. How I have no one to share it with, mostly. How I have no one to cook for. You know, I cook blueberry banana bread or halloumi and courgette cakes, and then I spend all week trying to eat it before it goes bad. While those two lover teens cook awfully basic meals like ramen noodles and soy sauce or pesto pasta with hot dog bits. And the smell wafts up and envelops me like a worn old blanket. It reminded me, years ago, of when I lived with him, and we didn't have a stick of furniture or $2 between us. We'd spend all day in bed eating fried eggs and boiled potatoes made out of the same pot with the rusted handle. We'd huddle together for warmth during the ice storm that took out our power and our heat. We'd cry in each other's arms over the joy of finally having someone to hold on to for as long as we wanted. We'd grab steamés from our favorite local on Boulevard Saint-Laurent, and we'd walk up the mountain to Lac aux Castors with our skates in our hand late at night, and we would have it all to ourselves under the ivory-faced moon, and we would race each other from one end to the other. You know, I always thought that if we had a kid, it would look like Prince. But I think that would be the least of its problems. I don't actually want kids. I'd rather cheese grate my nipples. They're like these little black holes that are sucking up all the attention like light particles. But their laughter, he'd say, it's the greatest sound in the world. He'd obviously never listened to music or silence. He was covetous and crazy suspicious. Some might call what he did stalking. He called it staying informed. One morning I texted him, "Hi," and he texted back, "I feel like you're lying, but okay." So I called him a dog, and he texted back, "What does that make you, the fire hydrant?" You know, maybe I should have expected an adult in that situation and not a crying man baby. Oh no, don't get me wrong. I get it. The first 40 years of childhood are the hardest. Tale as old as time. It's been the theme of my life, for Christ's sakes. Man's eternal dating dilemma. Will I ever be an adult? And women's eternal dating dilemma. What the fuck? He had a selfish indifference to my feelings. Your feelings are not my problem. Aren't they? You know, I don't really know what it is I wanted out of that relationship. That's not true. Yes, I do. I just wanted to sleep in your stupid band t-shirts and hold your dumb hand, you piece of shit. One night, by the vents, I didn't hear the sound of sex or podcasts, but the sound of a bitter fight. You need therapy. You are so cruel. I'm in therapy. That's why I recommend it. Yeah, but you don't say that to people. That's a personal choice. You have deep-seated issues that I told you that stuff in confidence, and now you're using it against me. I'm not. You are so cruel. You have a selfish disdain for my feelings. Your feelings are not my problem. Aren't they? You know, you could gain 10 pounds without eating, just being in that fight. If it was a kerosene lamp, that fight would smell like toast before it exploded and melted your fingernails off. I'd been in fights like that. It was all so familiar, where I felt like I was being stabbed with a dull spoon and my heart was being scraped out until it was raw and seething to the touch. You know, she tried to yell back, but her voice faltered. She sounded like a half-mast flag in the wind. You don't feel anything. Don't you tell me how I feel. Okay, prove me wrong. Tell me how you feel about me. We've already been over this. Clearly not, since I don't know how you feel. You say that I'm wrong. Tell me how. We're getting off topic. It's always on your terms. It's always about you. You're making this all about you. Well, why shouldn't I? It hasn't been about me all these months. Should I really be listening to this? You know, why can't he cry? Why can't he feel empathy? Why doesn't he feel remorse? Is he a sociopath? Why are men just the absolute fucking worst? I decided to leave to give them some privacy, as if they knew I was huddled by the vents. I grabbed my mask and I went for a walk to the Lachine Canal, and I sat on a bench overlooking the Fudden Five Roses factory. I felt as exhausted as the light at the end of the day. Imagine how those two must have felt. I tried to read a book, but couldn't concentrate. Jakob by Eric Kastner, supposed to be a classic. When I finally came home, I was about to climb the wrought iron staircase up to my apartment when I saw a man hanging out by the street level entrance, and he was on the phone. That voice. I would know it anywhere. Ludwig. Not at all what I expected. I'd pictured a tall blonde drink of water with broad shoulders, a 5 o'clock shadow, and a man bun. This guy looked like a despectacled Harry Potter. Who was he on the phone to? Was it her? He turned off the phone and lifted his eyes. Oh, dear God, I've made eye contact. No, 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 don't look away. You have to show your dominance. Dominance? I'm so tense I could bite off the end of a cigar with my asshole. You know, the way that he flicks his cigarette, he looks an awful lot like him. And then he took a step forward. Hi there. I don't believe we've met. Well, I guess we're meeting now. I like the book you're reading. You know it? Jakob by Eric Kastner. It's a classic. I love how, hey, no spoilers. Okay. How far along are you? 15 pages. I just started it. Jakob has just escaped the Nazi pogrom on the streets of Berlin, and now he's back at the news desk. Do you like it so far? I mean, it's kind of all over the place. It gets better. Well, maybe you should leave me to it then, huh? Just want to get upstairs, but he's looking at me with this hurt expression that is so familiar. He caught me off guard. He walks to the street like he's making to leave, but then he stops, and he turns around and he comes right back up to my face. Page 34. Excuse me? Page 34, first 3 words. Okay. And he turns on his heel and he walks away. I watch him go. And when he's gone, I grab the book and I hurriedly flip to page 34. The first 3 words are freed my mind. Who's been listening to who?